committee up there with you. I appreciate the situation you find yourself in when you're asked to do something that sounds very good, but the results of unintended consequences can come out and bite you. Just on this traffic speed on Lafayette, I travel Noe Avenue 4 to 6 times a day, probably 360 days a year, and it has limited traffic speed. It's more ignored than followed. I think that if you're going to put up any kind of a speed system and achieve a safety situation, we can't rely on the chief and his staff to police this thing 24/7. But if we come up with some real deterrents for people. Now, speed bumps work in communities on off streets. You can't put them on major streets. That's been effective to approach the problem of a neighborhood. One of the recent things that's come, and the cost has come way down, you've all seen it, are these speed indicators where when you're approaching it, there's a sign that says your speed limit's 25 miles an hour. This thing begins to click and shows you going 35 or 40. They've added a new addition in here that when you're 10 miles above the speed, you get strobe lights. I don't know if you've ever seen that or not. The police chief might know that. I think if you're going to put a speed limit on a road, I don't think people today, if you were to ask my wife to drive 25 miles an hour, I hope she's listening, the chances are it's just not going to happen. The car goes too fast, she says. Now my point is we're going to have a regulation. Let's have a reasonable regulation, but let's put enforcement into it, and it couldn't be passive enforcement. I have a great belief that people are going down the street and they're not concentrating on what they're doing, and this thing sparks at them where they see that they're exceeding the limit. The great majority are going to slow down. You're never going to stop the idiot from passing the school bus, and they deserve to get the ticket. Now, you can escalate this one step further. This has complete ramifications that I'm not particularly in favor of, but if somebody's going down the street past one of these 25-mile-an-hour blinkers or whatever you call a sign, and they hit 50 miles an hour, their picture's taken, their license is taken, and their contact. That's going an extra mile. But if you're really sincere on passing an ordinance that's supposed to safeguard the people, that ordinance should be realistic and it should be enforced.